Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and today I have a special guest with us. He's an author. He has a book that's up for pre-sale right now, and it's called Walking Worm. I have with us Matthew W. Quinn. Matthew, welcome to the Horror Realm.
Hey, hello everybody. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. So tell us a little bit about Walking Worm. I love that title, by the way.
Oh, thank you. All right. So I've been on before. I was talking about my previous series. It's called The Long War. The first book is A Thing in the Woods. The second book is The Atlanta Incursion. The Walking Worm is the third in the series.
Now, where does it pick up at from the last?
Okay, so it's about a year and a half after the events of the Atlanta Incursion. Do you mind spoilers?
Sure.
Okay, so basically in the Atlanta Incursion, our heroes James and Amber basically become interns for the Men in Black. Yeah, one of my church friends calls this the Young X-Files.
Okay. I'm a huge X-Files fan.
Yeah, so book 3 is about a year-ish after the Atlanta Incursion, and that was the carrot to get James on board as he gets to go to UNC Chapel Hill. So they're basically in this office in some back corner of Chapel Hill, and shenanigans ensue because one of the agents in the who's based at their office goes missing.
So Matthew, I have a question. So when you were working on Walking Worm, from the first book to now, did you already have a end-all be-all ending in mind, or is that something you slowly started working towards with each book?
No, my steampunk series, Battle for the Wastelands, has a definitive ending in mind. It could either be 9 or 10 books or 6, if there's enough interest to even keep it going. But the world of the Long War, the Thing in the Woods, the Atlanta Incursion, the Walking Worm, could go on forever and ever and ever if necessary.
So
they just keep having adventures.
So when you finished the Walking Worm, did you leave it at a cliffhanger?
Kind of. Like nobody's in any immediate danger, but owing to things that happen in the Walking Worm, the next year or two is going to be very interesting.
Now, how long did it take you to finish the Walking Worm?
I'm not really sure. I'm guessing a year-ish, because I want to run everything through my writing group, chapter by chapter. And there are some times where I just would write stuff that takes place later in the Walking Worm. We couldn't think of a way to get there. Mm-hmm. And then if I missed a meeting, because I do a lot of conventions that meet on Sunday, the group meets on Sunday afternoons, then I couldn't commit to the next meeting, and that throws the whole schedule off. Like, they were so kind as to let me submit basically the last quarter of the book to a meeting just to get it done, even though it was well over the 10,000 word limit.
Now, I can imagine as an author, I've never written a book before, and I envy authors. I can imagine, so I hear a lot of authors say they let the characters determine where the story is going to go. And I can imagine during that process, you're doing a lot of editing and rewriting, and the story is constantly evolving.
Yeah, that's more of a case with my Battle for the Wastelands books, where just people just show up that I had no idea of them even being there. But in the Walking Worm, characters make certain decisions to take the book and the series after it, should I write more, in a completely different direction. Give you a hint, involves Twitter.
Oh.
This is in 2012, so it's still called Twitter.
So it's on Twitter. Okay. So Elon Musk doesn't own it yet. No. Now, when it comes to writing, how do you constantly come up with these creative ideas? How do you constantly keep stories evolving? How do you keep that new chapter running?
Well, there's a writing podcast I listen to called Writer Dojo with Larry Correia and Steve Diamond that says if you're not writing, edit. If you're not editing, market. So always be doing something. And sometimes it's a matter of discipline. You have to sit down and just put something down on the page, and then sometimes the act of just sitting down and making yourself write causes you to suddenly surge. Write all the time, not just when you feel like it, and you'll be more productive than you think.
Now, do you have any stories or books that are sitting on the shelf for whatever reason, and you feel like, boy, the world is not ready for this yet? Or do you feel like this story is not ready to be put out yet?
No, I have some stuff I just never got around to finishing, but that's different.
Now, how many projects do you currently simultaneously work on at once?
In order to run things through the writing group one at a time. Like now the Walking Worm is done. I have a military sci-fi project that's sort of started out from I watched Star Trek Beyond, and I'm like, I really don't like the direction they went with this. Mm-hmm. And I started thinking I'm creating an entirely new world based on it. And then I tied it in with an earlier military sci-fi project I was working on to set it that further in the future.
Because Matthew is crazy. This is something I say all the time. When it comes to horror and sci-fi, right, it goes in waves. It goes ups and down, and when it comes to society and popularity. Right now, I mean, horror, especially in the indie scene, horror and sci-fi it's having this resurgence. It's big now. What do you think is the reason for that right now?
I'm not sure. I listened to the podcast, The Horror Show with Brian Keene, which isn't active anymore, but when it was active, we're talking about 5 or 6 years ago. They're making the same argument that horror is something people kind of go to and think times are unstable or threatening.
Do you feel like we're in a times of uncertainty and threatened?
And depending what you look at, some like people, there's when I was in journalism school. They talk about mean world syndrome. Mm-hmm. The more you watch TV news, the more dangerous you think the world is. Like crime, I think crime peaked in 1991 and dipped, ding, 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 down all about maybe 2015, and started going up again.
Now, as a horror writer, do you feel like audiences now in the year 2025 have been somewhat desensitized when it comes to horror, and you have to constantly push the envelope?
I don't think so. I mean, there's a whole subgenre of horror, splatterpunk and extreme horror, which my novella Little People, Big Guns was published through Deadite Press, which is known for stuff that's a lot more violent and darker and edgier than mine. I guess maybe Little Dudes Fighting Killer Animals was edgy enough without crossing into stuff that's really gross.
Yeah, because I mean, it just seems to me like when it comes to horror audience, like I'm not into the splatterpunk stuff. Like I've tried reading splatterpunk, and maybe it's because my age. I don't know. I'm 42. But when it comes to my horror now, whether it be reading, film wise, I like a good story. I like character development. I like characters that I can relate to, and I care about their demise. And it just seems like horror is kind of staying that way, but it's kind of steering more towards a splatterpunk and the over the top Terrifier gore.
Yeah, now that you bring up Terrifier, that makes a certain amount of sense. That's something that seems so over the top gross. I don't even want to watch it. Like something I've realized lately, not necessarily like horror movies, like monster movies. Like I'm not interested in ghosts, although The Shining is actually scary. And I'm not interested at all in torture porn.
And I was just talking to somebody recently about an interview, and I was talking about the torture porn, and it was an actress, and she was saying that that is the one genre that she refuses to act in is torture porn, and and I mean, but it's such a big thing. We brought up Terrifier. Terrifier 3 was indie horror movie that was number one in the box office for a week, and it seems like more and more people. I don't get it. Me personally, I don't get it. It seems like there is a audience for that now.
Well, I once heard an interview with Ben Shapiro was interviewing the guy who was behind Get Out.
Mm-hmm.
Blumhouse, was it?
Jordan Peele, yeah, Blumhouse.
Yeah, I think so. Talk about how horror movies are relatively cheap to make. Like the Terrifier films, I don't think cost that much. The original Friday the 13th didn't cost that much either. But if you're making tens of millions of dollars, like a $1 million budget, that's like 1,000+% return. And maybe I'll have to go back and do the math. But make it cheap, make a lot of money, and there'll be more of it. Have you seen Nosferatu, the new one?
It is so good. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think it costs that much. I mean, you just need lots of rats and Bill Skarsgård, and I think it's Bill Skarsgård, made up like a 7-foot tall zombie with a big mustache, and having Julie Rose Depp screaming a lot.
But is there a difference when it comes to horror writing and horror movies? Like, because I hear so many filmmakers say they go into horror filmmaking because it's easy to make. It's inexpensive, like you said. Why is there such a huge influx of writers that now they want to write horror?
I don't know, because with writing a book, budget is less of a concern. I mean, we talk about my Kickstarter a little bit, but I basically only had to raise $1,500 to cover all my costs and make a little bit of profit before I even sold anything. Kickstarting a movie is tens of thousands of dollars, if not more. So I'm really not sure.
Yeah, because I would assume writing a horror book would be more challenging. I don't know. I've never written a book, because with a horror book, you have to grasp your audience and you have to make them feel a little unease, but you're doing it all without the visual effects.
Yeah, I guess prose quality then. And prose quality doesn't require as much expense as good special effects does. I mean, maybe if you count having the free time to read a lot, but that's not much compared to super elaborate practical effects or CGI that actually looks like something other than a PlayStation 1 game.
Yeah.
Like, you ever seen the original, the 1990 Spawn movie?
Yes. Horrible.
Yeah. John Leguizamo is hilarious, but the special effects, as my friend Daniel would put it, looked like a PlayStation 1 game.
It really did. And it was overly, it used the green screen effect. I think it was one of the first movies that really used green screen, but it used it way too much. It just looked like you said, early PlayStation 1 game. Graphics wise.
Yeah, meanwhile, I once saw some behind the scenes of Pumpkinhead, and that has some really elaborate puppetry. I haven't seen the first one, but from what I could tell, it looks good.
Great practical effects, man. Listen, I'm a huge fan of practical effects. I give praise to filmmakers who use practical effects because, the CGI is the easiest way of doing it when it comes to movies now. And to have the practical effects for somebody's head shoot off and blood shoot over place, that takes real skill and talent.
Yeah, if you like practical effects and horror, check out the movie The Void. I think it came out in 2016.
I love The Void.
Yeah, he made the director made a very big deal about how this was all going to be practical effects.
So where do you think, you're a horror fan, what do you think is horror is going in the next 5 years? Do you think it's going to have that dip that it always does? Every couple years it just dips, or do you think it's going to ride itself out for a while?
I'm really not sure. I mean, I have a book called Paperbacks from Hell. Have you read that?
I have not.
It's by Grady Hendrix. It's about I'm looking over my shelves somewhere. It talks about like the boom in paperback horror, 70s, 80s, and 90s kind of fizzled out. Like on the horror show with Brian Keene talked about Brian Keene talked about how like one of the publishers, Leisure Books, went under around this period. So there was a bust and might be booming again, which means a bust is likely in the future because it'll eventually get overcrowded. I think the indie publishing scene is probably getting very crowded just because it's so easy to publish. You don't need, like I was explaining to my economics students, book publishing used to be an oligopoly, and then with Amazon publishing, now it's monopolistic competition, differentiated product but no barriers to entry. And now we have generative AI. Oh boy.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna tell you now. I've actually read an AI horror book within the last couple months.
Written by an AI?
What was that?
And it was written by an AI?
It was written by AI. And it read like a book that was written by AI. And I was talking to a small publisher, and he was like, he gets a lot of submission, and he's getting a lot of submissions where people are sending the AI generated stories in, and he said that he can tell them a mile away, and I agree with him. I read one, and I was like, this seems like something a computer or a robot would write. There was no character development. There was no. It wasn't empathetic. It was just like all the way through it.
And it looked like word salad.
Yes. So Walking Worm is on pre-order right now.
Yeah.
Now, I have a question, Matthew. Do you do autograph copies of your books?
Oh yeah, that's where I make most of my money. Especially saying that the indie book scene is kind of glutted. The last couple of years haven't made as much on Amazon. That's why I did Kickstarter, is to sort of pay off all my costs in advance and make a little extra, and try out having pre-order as well, which I've never done a pre-order before, and hopefully make more profit. Yeah, so it's been on the pre-order has been up for I don't know, about a month or more at this point. I can't remember when I precisely put it up, but it'll go live on February 5th.
Okay. And
so,
it's okay.
So depending on when this video runs, it may be available to purchase already. You can definitely pre-order it because I've had enough people pre-order it that I have a sales rank.
Nice.
Yeah, it'd be nice to turn it on, go in there on the morning of February 5th and see like 100 copies.
See, that would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I'm not sure if that's the case, but I mean, we'll see. Once I get that third book, once the third book is out and has a few reviews, I'll try for a book bub again.
Now, are there people out there, because I mean, listen, I go through YouTube, and there's tons and tons of people who do movie reviews. I'm one of them. Mm-hmm. I don't see as many people who, especially when it comes to indie horror, doing indie horror book reviews.
Okay, well, I'll give you a couple. There's Mindy's Book Journey. She's reviewed most of my stuff and even helped fund the Kickstarter for The Walking Worm, and she's going to review The Walking Worm on her YouTube channel. Books of Blood did Thing in the Woods, The Atlanta Incursion, and Little People, Big Guns, although he's not active lately. He's going another direction with his life. And there's one who did The Thing in the Woods and The Walking Worm. I can't remember her name. So I mean, they're there. Just if there's fewer of them than their movie reviews, I guess it's because people watch movies more than they read books.
And it definitely takes more time because I've been considering doing book reviews, but I'm like, when in the hell am I have time to do that? I get so many. I'm doing interviews, and I'm also getting so many people who want to send me screeners to do the movie. I'm like, it really takes time to sit down and really digest a book.
Well, do you drive around a lot?
I do.
Your library might have an audio or ebook available to borrow, like through the Libby or Hoopla app.
Mm-hmm.
Like my library system, Fulton County in Georgia, has I've listened to Jennifer Lyle's Swarm and Gareth Brown's Book of Doors, and I can't remember who wrote Alien Phalanx. I listened to all three of them in audio. Oh, and Axiom's End. Well, I think Lindsay Ellis. So a lot of the listening was done when I was driving, because I have a commute that's about 30 minutes in the morning, 45 minutes to an hour in the afternoon. So I can listen to a good audio book in a week or two.
Now, has that been something you thought about doing with your books? Doing an audio edition on them?
I just had the Amazon, robot narrator do it because it's less complicated. Probably not as good as a human narrator, so I price it cheaper than some of these like full cast marvels like Max Brooks' Devolution, the Bigfoot book. You ever read that?
I have.
Yeah, the audiobook has got like Kate Mulgrew from Voyager, Nathan Fillion from Firefly, all these really well-known actors playing each role individually. Meanwhile, most audiobooks is one narrator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Swarm is good because it's got a female narrator who can do all the characters' voices.
Oh, that's awesome.
Men and women of different ages, like including a sullen teenage boy. She goes real deep with that. Or like a white little brother, can we make cookies?
See, that's real talent. That's real talent there. Yeah, that's.
And then there's another space horror book called Dead Silence, which reminds a lot of Event Horizon by S.A. Barnes. That audiobook is really good too. So if you want to do more book reviews, but you're busy, do audiobooks from your library.
That is a good idea.
Yeah, and all y'all out there. Sorry, what?
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, and all y'all out there in Radio Land, if you are too busy to read physical books but drive around a lot or exercise, listen to an audiobook from your library. It's free.
Now, how does that work for an author pay-wise? Like, if I purchase your book through audio, you still collect some type of revenue, correct?
Yeah, for I've seen some people have gotten the Atlanta Incursion, like the Amazon robot narrator audio. It's like a small charge added on to the ebook purchase. Just the audiobook would be like $5 or $6. In terms of ebook borrowing, Hoopla, I think I get maybe like 35 cents per borrow. At least I think that's how it works. So it's not a huge amount, but it gets it in the libraries.
It's something.
Yeah, the audiobooks, if you're using the Amazon Robo Narrator, they're Amazon exclusive, at least for as long as it's there. I haven't really thought about switching out a human narrated version. I'd have to set that up, hire a narrator and all that. My original publisher for Thing in the Woods did that, and that version is still around. So we'll see. But yeah, I don't really know how the royalties right situation for library audiobooks work. Just for library ebooks, I don't think it's that much money.
Okay. Now, is it still profitable to be a indie writer right now in 2025?
Probably not as profitable as it used to be. But that's why I did the Kickstarter, because I can just get my hardcore fans, the people who really want to see the story continue, and they can get extra prizes. Like one of my friends from college is the town veterinarian, not veterinarian, he's a full doctor in The Walking Worm, and one of my pen pals in internet forum, he's cult enforcer thug type. That was the ultimate prize, was $75 to be, they call it Tuckerization, to be a character in it. Mm-hmm. And then there's signed paperbacks or unsigned paperbacks that I get to ship directly to somebody from Book Vault. And with the signed ones, I had to get them to my place and sign them. I mailed them out again. Luckily, we didn't have that many. If something had like 1,000 people wanting signed copies, I'd be very happy and then be very freaked out.
Yeah. See, I love signed copies of books. Like, I like to have. I'm an autograph collector, so I always, if an author gets an option to do the autograph and sign, that's the copy I'll usually get.
Yeah, I make a lot more money at shows than Amazon just because I buy the books myself at $4.55 a copy and sell them for 12 or 13 signed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's ownership of everything. It's not just royalties.
Yeah.
And of course, I only have so many weekends to give up.
I know, but there's a lot of conventions now, man. There's a lot of conventions.
Oh yeah, thanks to the website I found called the Southern Fandom Resource Alliance or something like that. They have all the conventions in the greater Southeast. We're talking like from Texas and Oklahoma to DC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hotels eat money, so I haven't done an overnighter in a while. Like I go to Augusta, I have some family live in the area. I can just crash with them. But otherwise, I just stick to places I can go to and from my apartment.
Now, AuthorCon, that's in Williamsburg, Virginia this year.
Yeah.
Is that something you think about attending?
That when I have more books, yeah.
Okay.
Because right now I have, let's see, the Long War will be 3 once The Walking Worm comes out. Battle for Wastelands is 2 full novels and 1 novella. Little People, Big Guns is novella. And I have a short story collection called Flashing Steel, Flashing Fire. I kind of want to cover all my costs per event. I'm frankly kind of a bean counter. Although that might get into penny-wise, pound-foolish territory. Like I was a volunteer for this horror trade show in Atlanta in 2015. And thanks to Anya Martin, who got me the hookup. And this was not a money-making thing, but I did make the contacts with Deadite Press, and that's why Little People, Big Guns exists. So that might be useful to go to an event like AuthorCon, even if I don't sell enough to cover my costs, just a network.
And that's the best part about those conventions is the networking. I mean, I get a lot of my guests from my shows from horror conventions and author conventions. So, I mean, they're great places to network.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Matthew, where can everyone find you, man?
Okay, since I'm not sure, when I talked last time, do I have my Substack?
I'm sorry?
When we talked last time, did I have my Substack? Okay, that's new. It's called The World According to Quinn. I use Substack to replace my Blogger blog that was just ancient and my MailChimp newsletter. And I have a Patreon set up, but I was using Substack as an alternative to Patreon as well, because when I first signed up for Substack, very soon after, British sci-fi author Christopher G. Natal signs up as a premium subscriber.
Nice.
And recently, one of the guys from the podcast I'm on, Myopia Movies, like a childhood film podcast, see if they're still good. He signed up for premium subscriber. So now I have to have 1 premium post per month in addition to the 2 free posts for everyone. So a lot of like how I would have done certain movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like the January premium post is going to be how I would have done Starship Troopers. The one from the 90s.
Love Starship Troopers.
And the February premium post is how I would have done Ice Pirates from the 80s.
Never seen Ice Pirates.
It's a movie that's not really well made, but it's entertaining. Like my usual thought process of movies is if I enjoy it, it's not a bad movie. But there are some movies like the new movie Borderlands or Ice Pirates that are just bad, but they're entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Like Borderlands is like a kind of dumber Guardians of the Galaxy. And Ice Pirates is kind of like a dumber Star Wars.
All right, see, now I'm writing down on my list, though. I'm writing down on my to-watch list. Ice Pirates.
Yeah. And then there's this movie called Space Hunter: Adventures in the Forbidden Zone, which is like a post-apocalyptic space opera, which I think I saw on TV when I was a little kid. Probably shouldn't have.
Well, see, listen, if you watch my channel, I love bad movies. I love bad but fun movies. I do. I mean, I love a good bad but fun movie.
Yeah. So, yeah, but yeah, if you want to find me online, Substack, World According to Quinn. I have a Patreon. Just search Matthew W. Quinn. Amazon, Matthew W. Quinn. And most of my stuff, other than the Battle for the Wastelands books, is wide release. So it's on Apple Books and Barnes and Noble and Hoopla for libraries and all this other stuff.
And
so also, search Matthew W. Quinn. I'll just show up.
And also down in the description, also I had the link to the pre-order for Walking Warm. So definitely click on that and grab your pre-order. Mm-hmm. Matthew, let's have you on again, my friend.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for coming to the Horror Realm. I'm Travis Bruce, and that's Matthew W. Quinn. We'll see you next time. Take care.